Prince, particularly in his earlier era, up until around Purple Rain, had a distinctive brassy synth sound that arguably most exemplified just what he brought to music. Prince was a one-man show, and so he wouldn't employ string and brass sections until much later into his career. Enter the Oberheim Ob-Xa. Although initially preferring synths like the Mini Mode, this synth released in 1979 would come to be one of his staples. Prince took synthesizer quite literally, as it breathes a sort of computerized, orchestrated life to the knocking, strange synth funk of his earliest music. I'd even say Prince's use of the synthesizer would become the oral zeitgeist of the era. Every dance pop hit post-1982 contains hints of what Prince brought to popular music with 1999. The stereotypical big, bright sound owes large debt to Prince. See, in the 80s, popular music was far more homogenous than it is now, really music in general. These days, I have 100 synths at my disposal at the click of a button in any digital audio workstation worth its salt. But back then, many producers ran in the same circles, and so gear found in studios was often similar. And once one producer heard a hit song using that particular synth, they'd probably try to capture its magic, hence the unified sound of that era. Plus, the polyphonic synth was not that old in 1982. The audio palette wasn't nearly as broad, and also cutting-edge innovations were still being made where computers met instruments, the Lin LM1, the Fairlight, the DX7, I could go on. So once Hollywood heard the futuristic funk of 1999, they followed suit, I'd argue, for years after. For example, Prince's influence, pay attention to, Phil Collins' Sussudio, who in a more egregious example clearly rips off 1999 in a literal sense. You can look at the Pointer Sisters with Automatic, or even Madonna's earliest work. It carried Prince's mark, even, in a disco format. Prince produced electronic inflected music when acts like Kraftwerk and Tangerine Dream were only just recently in rear view from legitimizing it, and no one had really done it in pop. When Little Red Corvette hit the airwaves, the grave of disco was still fresh, and the ears of America were ready for something new, and Prince was all too eager to deliver. The polyphonic synth as it was, polyphonic meaning you can play more than one note, was only created in 1978 with the Prophet 5. So the smoky, sustained chords of Little Red Corvette were daring for their time, especially for it to be a song that leans into rock pretty heavily, though this would become a larger trend of new wave. I wouldn't credit the entire movement to Prince, but I'd say his use of the Oberheim Ob-Xa synth in particular did inspire much of the 80s pop that will follow, all the way up until New Jack Swing, and then, even then, because if Kraftwerk started electronica, Prince gave it soul, and though I've given a lot of attention to 1999, Prince had been using synths as horn sections as early as his first record, For You, though he had already begun to master it by the second with I Want to Be Your Lover and I Feel For You. I'm pretty certain Prince was the first to bring this brand of synth work to so-called black styles, as you can point to, Give It To Me Baby or Thriller, but I Feel For You predates both of those. By even controversy, Prince had records exploring what the synthesizer could do for the likes of R&B and funk, and it changed everything. The big drums, fuzzy synths, slap bass lines, and sly sexual themes have all become synonymous with the 80s. But these are all characteristics of a signature that Prince started. The Minneapolis sound, if you will. It was the way Prince used the synthesizer, because to be fair, they had been used in, disco with the likes of Donna Summer, but those large, sustained, fuzzy chords, Prince started that. As well as the, emulating the brass section with the synth thing. Prince definitely coined that as well. And that isn't even to delve into how Prince legitimized the drum machine as a credible instrument, which would deserve a video on its own.